You have heard enough times how to dissolve the ego immediately, right now. So what I want to talk about in this video is how the ego actually dissolves over time while honoring that there is such a thing as experiencing ego death in the moment. So let's make this video about the dissolution of the ego in both aspects, the sudden, immediate, in the moment, and also the gradual one. More importantly, in this video, I want to show you what it is that incentivizes this process of dissolving the ego. What are the things that we can recognize? Because as seekers of truth, we want to find the evidence. We want to find the proof that this is actually what's happening. So again, just to cover up the idea of ego dissolution in the moment, this always refers to a sort of recognition, whichever pathway or technique we use. It's a way to suddenly recognize your true nature. It is a way for us to see that what we believe to be, right, this idea of a limited body-mind is inexistent. We have no evidence about it. And so that happens always in the moment. We recognize that in the moment. It's not something that happens over time through intellectual understanding and different experiences, but actually it always happens in the moment because it's not something that requires anything. It's not something that you have to work towards. Actually, it's something that anybody can recognize in the moment. And it's very similar to when people are acting up and somebody says, come on, come off it, right? And in that moment they realize like, oh, what was I thinking? What was I doing? I wasn't being myself, right? That happened in the moment. That didn't happen through, okay, how do I come off myself, that act? Explain to me. You don't. You just suddenly realize, like, oh, I'm acting like a fool. That's not me, right? So in the same way, that's what sudden realization is doing. Whichever way. There are so many ways because there are so many ways in which we can believe that we are something else. But the realization is always the same, and it's always the one realization of who you are. That is, I am this pure awareness. Everything that happens, and it comes and goes. It doesn't stay. The only thing that remains is always the awareness of that which is happening. Now, that is what everybody refers to as ego dissolution right now, in the moment. Listen to this video for 5 minutes and your ego will dissolve. Of course, because we are prompting the mind to realize that its source is unlimited. It is not the limited being. Okay, now, since we covered that, we can talk about the gradual dissolution of the ego. And this is going to be very simple. It is actually due to the first realization that this gradual dissolution of the ego will happen. Now, normally, we talk about the direct path, which is the way in which we promote that understanding, an understanding that goes beyond the mind, a realization of oneness, of unity, of non-existence as a limited being, right? So as we talk about the direct path, we also refer to as gradual paths or progressive paths, those that create a sort of concession to the ego and say, okay, you're going to work and do this, and you're going to achieve these levels, and eventually you will arrive here, right? That is a very skillful way of not trying to shock the person into realizing who they are, but rather working with their identity, their limited identity, and helping them gradually, in essence, work towards their dissolution. Yes? Now, because we work with the direct path, what we actually have to see now is a dissolution of that ego, because the ego doesn't go away from just one realization, from that point, from that understanding. So instead of giving it techniques and things to do and practices and exercises and levels to achieve, what we give ourselves is the truth. We give ourselves the truth of who we are, and that's why in this practice we always recommend or say, remember, abide in yourself, return. All these words are referring to the same initial realization, the first glimpse into our true nature. So as we sit with ourselves and we realize that that's not me, that's just passing experience, and all these meditations, all these abiding in ourselves, then something will happen that the mind will not be able to recognize. And here's the message of this video. As we remain more and more as ourselves, as our true selves, then there is something that we can call dissolution of the ego. Because what used to give us the idea that we had to act, to do things, to control things, it's a very vivid experience, right? We've always lived with this idea that I'm the one that decides, I'm the one that controls, I'm the one responsible for this, oh, I'm the one who owns this, I'm the one who created this, right? This sense of I being the fabricator of life, this sense of limited person doing things, achieving things, losing things, desiring things, fearful of things. All of this is related to the body-mind. A body-mind that all it does is recognize patterns and structure things. That's it. That's the function of the body-mind. So as we begin to realize who we truly are, this association with this process that we call the body-mind begins to happen. But there is no way that the body-mind can recognize how it happened, because it happens without structure. It happens without a planning and organizing and controlling. So we don't know objectively what's happening, but we do see some key things. And that's what I want to offer you to realize in your life that is happening. And if it's not happening, then there is still a doer there. There is still a controller. There is still somebody who is trying to do things and it's finding failure. But what inevitably has to happen and we have to experience are a couple of things. One, there's a greater sense of peace. We have no idea where it's coming from because nothing changed really in our lives. You have to notice that nothing in your life changes because happiness and peace does not depend on something that happens in life. So you begin to feel more peaceful, even if it's just small things that you notice where you're just more peaceful, less reactive, less emotional, in the sense that you don't get caught up with the emotion. That doesn't mean you don't feel emotions. Emotions are felt more than ever, but you're not resisting them, so they feel lighter. So we can say lighter emotions, easier to integrate. So that's peace. The next thing is clarity. Clarity begins to shine as a way of not doubting ourselves, not being confused with the decisions that we have to make. And so clarity shines as, well, I no longer doubt myself. I keep doing what I need to do. And I don't question it, I don't expect things, and I don't want to achieve anything. I just know that this is the right thing to do, and I keep doing it. So you continue to have greater and greater clarity. And lastly, there's something that everybody craves, that everybody is truly wanting, but we're all getting it in the wrong way, which is understanding. When we say understanding, the mind has been fed with so much information about understanding intellectually. Understanding so I can explain it. Understanding through concepts. And that ceases. You begin to see a lack of desire to want to read more, learn more models, study more things. And not only that, but you also begin to understand better things without having to explain them. This understanding is happening beyond the mind. Just like the clarity that you're having is not through the mind. The mind is just a tool for this clarity to say, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is what's right, And I don't question this. I don't doubt. I don't work with hesitancy. I am being more spontaneous. Or this is being more spontaneous. It's not I who is now spontaneous. This limited self, this person. And again, the peace that is beyond the mind because it doesn't require anything from the mind. What I want you to see is that all of these, understanding, clarity, and peace, these three aspects of our lives begin to shine more and more the more we allow ourselves to recognize that we're not the person, that we're not the controller, that we're not the limited being. And as a result, more of this can come through. If you're seeing this in your life, that's all the evidence that you need. That's all the proof that you need that this is what you want. You want greater peace. You want pure clarity in everything that you're doing. And you want to feel that true understanding that goes beyond concepts, that doesn't require that you refer to a particular structure, model of metaphysics or spirituality to explain anything, but rather to live your life based on an understanding that's coming from pure clarity. And that clarity is coming from that peace. So they're all intertwined in this one single understanding that we have as an initial realization of who we truly are. The practice is always the same. Remembering, returning, recognizing, and abiding there in your true nature. That's what we call meditation, and that's why meditation is the single most important thing that we can ever engage in, so we can enhance these aspects, these incentives in our lives that don't depend in the body-mind, that do not depend on the workings and the structures and the insights and so on. It's just a natural flow of life that is now being integrated more in you. As always, I am hoping that this is a video that is helpful to you and that you can begin to integrate more and more of this peace, clarity, and understanding that comes from a place that is not the limited being, that is not the one that is working towards something, but actually it is what you are, and all you need to do is recognize daily this understanding, daily this realization of who you are, and that is meditation. As simple as that. The more you do that, the more you're going to see this expand in your life as it integrates as a new understanding. Again, I hope the video is helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.